Hello, welcome to Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better, to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Barnes.
And I'm Mark Langley.
Hi Mark, we're talking to you from New South Wales, Australia, back down in the colder country. And not too long before you're whizzing off to Europe to first stop is Germany, and then you're heading off to the UK and then some other countries. So while we've got you in Australia, we've got our questions from our members for this week, and they're fantastic. A lot of questions. I'm very excited to hit you with them. But first of all, I just wanted to read you a comment from Jane, which is just a lovely comment that's come through. She says, Mark is one of the best teachers that I've found online. I recommend him to people all the time. I particularly love the podcast because they're answering real questions from real people and providing real guidance. I feel like he's speaking to me, regardless of whether the context is audio or video. Thank you so much, Jane. That's great to hear. And it's nice to feel that that you're sort of getting a personal feedback from what we're doing, and it's reaching to you on some level. Hopefully what we're coming up with is reaching a whole load of people. It's great to hear comments from people like yourself. So the first question for you, Mark, this week is all about brace, and I think it's one you're going to grapple with quite easily. I know you see it a fair bit at your clinics. But this question is all about a 4-year-old homebred mare who's been started under saddle, and she has reared a little bit last year, and now she's sort of getting ridden a little bit more, and she's carrying a brace, and the rider feels that the brace is going to cause her to go up, like it's the only way that she's going to go, and it's going to go up. So obviously that brace is in there. And Prue is wondering, with the correct work, can this be eliminated?
Yeah, Prue, most certainly. I sort of have a bit of a joke when I'm at clinics. I'm going on a brace hunt. So when people bring horses to clinics, it's not just, let's just be enlightened and learn about, horsemanship and bettering ourselves and our horses. It's about hunting the red flags and the braces in our horses, and I sort of, I guess you can go out through the bush and walk through the forest and not really notice that you're following a track or a trail, but a seasoned tracker is going to find little things along the way that recognise that we're on the path of something. So I guess someone might look at a horse and go, that's a pretty soft horse and going pretty good, and I'll come in and I'll say, well, I sense a brace in there, and we'll just have to track where it is. And so basically I'm hunting brace at clinics all the time, and the reason I do that is because it's just a brace is a form of worry or anxiety in a horse, and it causes them to have a sort of negative response. And usually through braces, they brace up through their body and mind. Like the most common brace that we see is when horses freeze and they sort of go all rigid with their body, in a standstill. And they also, when they start to move, they carry that rigid movement. They're sort of heavy on their forehand, their head's bobbing a lot, their feet are hitting the ground hard. When they back up, their sort of hind feet are, scrambling out to the side and paddling and things like that, and they're pushing off their front end. And, when they turn, they sort of lock up. And it's just the natural sort of thing in a horse to want to sort of, if they don't understand something, it's almost like it's a protection where they're just bracing up, So I'll give you an example. Like, I guess if there was a boxer, a boxer may know how to bend and weave and duck and deflect, and they also know how to block, whereas a person that wasn't a boxer, and if they had a punch or someone come towards them with a punch, then they're going to sort of brace and just block like that and block that pressure coming towards them in that fist. So whereas a seasoned boxer might just step around and sort of loosely move around that punch. And that's what happens with horses, that the pressure of the reins come, the pressure of us, all that sort of thing come. The horse doesn't know what to do, so it kind of just automatically freezes into that pressure, often starting at the part of the body where the pressure was, and most commonly when we're using reins, that's where it is. But that say for instance, if we were using the reins, the horse might brace in the jaw, the pole, the neck, and the front feet and the hind feet. So in order to get brace out of horses, you have to almost make them kind of soften their thoughts and soften their body and shift the brace through movement. A lot of brace is better shifted through the horse starting to search, but searching to the idea that movement is a good idea. And that movement has to transfer through just about every muscle of their body for the brace to actually dissipate. So like lateral flexion, sometimes people bend their horse's head around to the side and think, oh, I've got my horse soft, but all they've done is transferred the brace to the shoulders. And as I say, the muscles have to soften all through the whole body for that brace to release effectively in the long run. So with your horse, yes, of course, brace, fixing brace can help it. So your horse, the only way is up. So basically, some things you want to look at if the only way is up with brace is the availability of, the horse being able to move backwards softly, move its front end and its back end softly, sideways, things like that. But find out where the brace starts. So usually I would say if you take up on the reins of your horse, you take a feel on the horse on the left rein, back up or anything like that, you feel this lock up in it and it's sort of protecting itself. And then all of a sudden the energy builds up, the worry builds up. And then because it doesn't have a direction to go, or it's not sure about that direction, it's not confident about it, it just will blow and fight the pressure and push away from the pressure. So, in hand, something I do a lot with the rearing horses, or the ones that potentially could be rearers and go up, is I basically teach them to soften into the feel of my hand, because a lot of times when you're riding, you're going to be using that hand to sort of direct their hindquarter, things like that. That's through the rein. So I'll sort of pick up a feel on them and I'll start to wriggle and nod. I might push it up a little bit and I'll try and get them to sort of lift and then start to move their feet a little bit and create a bit of energy through their body and a bit of desire to search and move. And then I'll just keep doing that till they kind of wriggle loose a little bit. Sometimes when I hold feel and they brace and they just kind of freeze and nothing's happening, I might bang my leg a little bit and that puts a little sort of startle in their mind, and that little startle gets them to sort of wriggle loose a little bit sometimes. And then when they start to wriggle loose, you might just shift them back half a step or forward half a step, because a lot of horses that I meet at clinics have been moved away from pressure. So that when you put pressure on them, instead of them soften and have energy and stand with life or move softly with life, that life just tends to sort of want to get away from the pressure. So if they can't get away and you kind of contain that life or trap it, that's when they kind of brace up or get really worried or might blow, or just try and escape on the other sort of side of things. So, and that's why I'm really big on getting a horse to go towards its thoughts, not just make energy and tell it to move away from the energy, because to get a collection and softness in a horse, you need a soft mind, but you need energy, and you need that energy just to softly sort of be inside that horse, and they're kind of loose, ready to think and move in any direction. And it's that natural energy that actually releases the brace, but it has to go with a soft mind. So what I'm trying to do to release the brace on hand, I'm just trying to get that horse to kind of energize a little bit, and then I just rock it from, maybe forwards and backwards to start with, and they'll fight a little bit because they feel a trap and they think they're going to get away from the energy. But if you just go steady with it, you can get them to kind of wriggle loose. But, that's one way just to kind of get that life through them. But then the other, as I say, you've got to do forwards, backwards, and you've got to do miles of backing up, in a sense of till the horse is comfortable at thinking backwards and able to do it without even worrying about it. And the other thing is, can they bend softly, and can you pick up an indirect rein, and can they untrack that hindquarter nice and softly? Can you pick up that nod and move them across, and their forequarter and their chest is nice and soft? So when I don't identify and getting rid of brace, the area that I'm really looking at, apart from the mind, which is the most important thing, and the searching in the mind, is that sort of chest area. So right up through the base of their neck and their chest up through to their wither, you want to see that kind of loosen and get loose and lift, and when they start to do that one and they start to release there, then releasing the hindquarter is kind of easy peasy in a sense. But if they haven't released that inside front foot and that chest and lifted that wither up, then everything else is a little harder. And even if you were untracking the hind feet, because some people might say, move those hind feet away, get those hind feet moving. If you haven't released the front end of the horse and the mind of the horse, then it's going to be a really bad hindquarter yield where the horse is just braced up on its inside front foot and still able to panic and rear or do anything like that. So yeah, get all directions available in a nice, soft and a very slow kind of walk first, so the horse is freely moving, and then you build that up, and just so that's through the feel of the knot, the halter. And the other thing I sort of look at is I put a little bit of worry around the horses with a flag, and I might say, if I just worry you near your chest with a flag, are you going to freeze, or are you going to loosely go, oh, well, I can move away from that worry a step? And you're not teaching them to run away from the worry or get out. You're just trying to say search, search. And, so if I put a bit of worry down its one leg, it'll just pick up and move that leg back and go, oh, I don't like that there. I'll just move across. And that's like a test I do with horses to, one, release the freeze, but also get them to show me that if anything happens around them, instead of them going, there's worry there, I'm just going to stand here, they go, oh, I'm a bit worried about that. I might just shift a tiny bit. And if the horse softly shifts, then as worry goes in, worry tips out. So anxiety goes in, the horse makes a decision by shifting a little bit, it tips its own anxiety out. And the ability for horses under certain little amounts of pressure to be able to shift and think for themselves and make a decision, really important to get them to sort of handle pressure when we ride them and things like that. And a lot of horses I come across, you wave a flag and I think, oh, this is desensitizing, I'm just going to stand still. And the way the flag goes into the horse, but nothing comes out. All it does is brace through its whole body. So getting the horse to do something for itself when it's worried is really, really important as well. And if you address all these things, then, and it's probably more that I've missed, but you can relieve horses of brace and hard thoughts, and they start to become empowered, and also then think through pressure.
I guess it's good that Prue's identified that she's got that feeling that she's going to go up before she actually makes a habit of going up too. It's probably a good time, a good opportune time to to act on it before there's too much ridden work. Is there any sort of horses that you've come across, Mark, where you've you can just talk about where they have actually been rearers, but you've enabled them to stop rearing? I mean, is it really that simple that when you reduce the brace, they just literally stop rearing because they've got somewhere to go with their feet?
Yeah, right? No, a lot of horses, there's always going to be a horse that's got some sort of pullback at a clinic, some chronic. A horse that I've been helping over time in Queensland's a little chestnut mare. She's got a funny looking wither because previous in the past she's flipped over backwards and broke a wither. And at the end of the first clinic we did with her in the leading part of it, you could have went and hard tied her on any sort of rail anywhere because she started to get a lot better. Now, if she does have relapses, I guess, because I think, the owners as well have to keep going over it a lot just to sort of keep that in mind, because the past of pulling back and from pressure and fighting was so ingrained in her that, we're kind of reprogramming through offering them a solution through an alternative, which becomes their new memory and a new pathway. And sometimes under certain pressures, they might go back to that old memory, some more than others. But so you have to keep hot on it once you've loosened up the brace. But yeah, she basically, I think for her, I just got the flag and I gently just shook it underneath her a little bit to get her to shift until she shifted all 4 feet loose off the ground. And before I even asked her to come forward, because if you pulled on the head hard, she'd just run backwards and just, full panic. I actually think I backed her for about 2 lengths of the arena just until she was kind of starting to find her own back up, and the hind feet had freed up and the front feet had freed up a bit. And then once she could go backwards and float backwards, and that was just me following her. So I shake the flag a bit. She moves a bit. I follow up, not chasing her with it. Anyway, I won't go into too much detail there, but you get them to shift and then you follow them until they kind of continually start to shift and float. And once she started to float a little bit backwards, then right at that point, I started to say, now let's come forwards. And her forwards was so much better after she released the brace in reverse, because she was so disempowered in back up. And when she panicked, she'd just lock up and flip, or she'd run backwards in a panic, but she wouldn't run backwards very well. So she'd ended up in the air.
Tangled up.
So by backing her, teaching her to back up, that empowered her to go, oh, well, I do have another direction. And then once she started to realize that the worry in front of her, she could back off and not have to just panic. Then she goes, well, it doesn't worry me as much. But then when I put a lot of worry in front of her and said, now come forwards, she was like, well, I can do that because my feet are free and I don't feel so panicked about the pressure, because sometimes it's the trapping pressure that also makes the double whammy. So the bucket might fall off the rail, horse panics, the pressure on the pole hits them as they hit it, and then that's the catalyst that makes them really panic. But it's how they move away from danger that actually sets them up to search, and they get so used to moving away from danger in this complete snap response that when the pressure hits them, it's in a hard snap. So when they can move away from danger softly, then they get a lot better at seeking a better answer under pressure.
Okay, that's all leading to our next podcast, which people here, they're interested in how Mark deals with pressure and how crucial it is that a horse understands pressure so that that can actually open them up for, as he says, searching and coping with scenarios in life. Watch out for that podcast that's coming soon. So, Mark, obviously there's hope there for anyone with rearing horses, which is wonderful to hear. You mentioned clinics and the sort of horses that you get and what you're looking for. You're hunting, you're a red flag hunter, you're hunting for braces. Monica has asked, how do we prepare ourselves for a clinic? What videos are we best to watch? And I just wanted to answer that one very quickly because I can direct you to the online videos to watch, the challenges specifically set up for anyone that's new to Mark, so that you can get a really sort of good overall perspective of where he is coming from, and also, sort of have a bit more of an understanding of what to expect at the clinic in terms of what he's going to be doing and looking for. And likewise, if you go through his philosophy videos, they will stand you in good stead just to sort of have an appreciation of Mark and him. And it's not so much about where you are up to or where your horse is up to at a clinic, because as you walk into the clinic, Mark will just address what he sees. And sometimes a horse that might be a little bit green or a little bit fresh is perfectly okay, because you're going to have to deal with that yourself at some point anyway down the track. So it's kind of good sometimes for Mark to be able to see those holes, and then you can watch how he deals with it and the angle that he takes. So is that right? Is there any other comments, Mark, you'd like to add to that? How to prepare yourself for a clinic?
Pretty well spot on. Really, in a sense, I don't want people to go and practice one thing before the clinic, in case I might say, especially if it's a bit chronic or something like that, I might say, well, hang on, maybe we shouldn't deal with it like that and do something different. So yeah, it's better off just getting the philosophy, the ideas of my teaching, some of the basic ideas to look for in horses and stuff like that, and then come to a clinic and I'll go through and I'll try and explain to you what I see is how your horse is coping with different things, how it may understand or misunderstand things, and then I can also address you as a person and your strengths and weaknesses. So your weaknesses, I hope to make your strengths in a sense, as in by offering you alternative to things like that. So yeah, really, I'll do a lot of, because it's so personal. Even if you didn't go and watch any videos, it wouldn't matter, because you're just going to come in. The only thing that, like you said, Jenny, is the philosophy is important, because sometimes what I've found over the years is because sometimes I do a lot of clinics and people come and they go, this is the opposite of what I've just done for the 20 years, and they feel a bit disheartened and they feel a bit like, oh no, bar humbug, I'm really sort of, and they either shut down or they open up. So I think if you've got a bit of an idea of the philosophy, you know what you're prepared for, and you can already start to think about it. So it's not such a challenging, it's not, you're not going from, jumping into the cold water straight away. And that's probably just to more help people emotionally taking on board the clinic and the learning that's going to be at the clinic.
All right. And Monica did ask another question, which I'm going to put to you, because I'm sure that there are some of you out there that are thinking the same thing. So how do, as a horse trainer ourselves, horse riders, how do we find out where we are and where the holes are in our training, so that then we can make the most of what we need to be doing?
Yeah, I was thinking about that question, and it's kind of to me, it's a bit of a tough question, because there's so many little things that I could probably miss in trying to sort of, explain it. But I guess what I'd be looking at is holes in our training is something sometimes you need another eye to identify. So when you watch somebody train, or you watch some videos, and even the online videos that I offer and stuff like that, is you're going to have to notice your own holes in training, in the sense that or somebody else comes along and overlooks you and says, well, actually you're doing that slightly different. Because sometimes even when I've said to someone over and over, stand like this and just offer a feel like that, I'll have to go and show them and adjust it quite a few times to get it right. So, in the sense of the holes in training that we have, it's always good to have someone to look and ask and just explain what they see. The other thing is, I say, look, do a video of yourself training, and you look at it and just look at it hard. I learned a lot through watching my own videos. When I first started doing videos, I went, wow, geez, I didn't think you did that. And I was a bit like disappointed in myself. And I'm like, so I think just take a video of yourself when you're watching your horse, and just
it's a good idea.
Watch the video, and don't think about what I'd say or what someone else would say. Just watch it and say, and then as you're going through the video, try and remember or reflect on what you were asking the horse at the time, and the answer to the question that you would have expected in that, how you approach the situation. Even just when it comes to grounding, you watch a horse, you watch people go, I'm standing strong, and then you'll see him move about 3 feet or even half a foot when they're asking a question, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, you moved over there. Was a reason for that? No, I actually didn't even know I did it. And you go, well, you did it, and you have to know you do it, because everything you do is, in some respects, it's a request. There's a meaning to it. Every step has a meaning. Every pickup of rope has a meaning. So if you suddenly watch yourself, you'll notice all the things that aren't meaning anything that you're doing accidentally, and then you can sort of slowly tick off those ones first and say, get rid of those ones. Let's see if I can be more grounded, and then video it again in a couple of days or a week, and see if you sort of address those. And you don't even need someone else to watch that. If you're a bit of a critic like myself, in the sense self-critical, I'm quite self-critical when it comes to watching myself back, then I'll see things that I'd like to improve on. So yeah, that's my answer to how do you address your own problems, because I don't know you yourself, and I could go through a whole bunch of things. How you address training with your horses, and if there's any holes in your training with your horses. Well, watching those videos back, you'll see certain holes in your horses. You watch them closer, because as you sit back, you don't have the pressure of asking questions and things like that. So you watch your horse move, and you'll see it. It's anxiety, how many times it destinates, how many times it sort of takes a worried step, or all little things like that. You'll notice it, and you'll see little holes in there. And that's, I say, another self reflection, and just you watch it yourself. But in your horses, holes in training, there's so many little holes, but basically just a little checklist that I'd sort of think about when I'm operating the horses. When I walk up to them, do they remain soft and aware, as in their breathing doesn't change, their eyes don't harden, things like that. It's basically, some of the stuff that I sort of try and get people to look at in the challenges. Where does the horse change its emotions, and is there any anxiety starting to creep in as I just even approach a horse? So, there's going to be a hole there somewhere. Obviously, there's always advancement later on that we do with our horses, but we have to look at the basic things that we do. So, everyone's at a different level. But I always go back to the basics, and is in when I walk up to my horse, what happens? When I slip the halter onto the bridle, and what happens? Does the horse harden for a second? Is there a hole there? Can I help that? When I take out the feel of a lead rope, does the horse brace a little, sort of get a hard eye, or does it sort of willingly, softly just sort of follow that feel of that lead rope nice and softly? And if you haven't taught it to think away strong to go out on a circle, it doesn't really matter, but at least you can pick up the knot and say, is it troubled by that or not? So I guess if I'm, saying how do you identify holes, go and do something with your horse and look for trouble in the horse's mind, in its body. And if you see a little trouble, then there's always going to be trouble in teaching horses new things, because there's always pressure. But if it's something you've been doing a lot of, and you've done a lot of it, and you think it's okay, go back and check those things. And you'll find a little bit of brace and trouble back there that you should fix. And as I say, everything you do is there's a request, and not a request, it's a conversation. But through that, there's going to be little requests that you'll be asking, and little answers that your horses deliver. So right back to those basics. You just look for trouble. As I say, you approach your horse, is there trouble? When I put the halter on, is there trouble? When I just rub down the side or walk down this side or walk past me, is there trouble? And just go back and fix those things. And that's how, I really identify anything in a horse, same as a clinic. I'm only teaching you what I'm only telling you what I would do at a clinic. I watch someone walk up to the mounting block and I see trouble in the horse, and I say, well, where did that trouble start and why? Let's look at it. And they've got to think about it then. And I've also got to think about it, because I'm the one that's sort of there that's supposed to try and help. So, and that's how you identify holes, without going and teaching you all the holes. There's so many holes out there that take me all day to talk about every single pothole out there.
Yeah, that's why you have a job, Mark, because you're there to see things that we don't see. I hope that helps, Monica. And just for any of you that are sort of struggling with the language there that Mark was using, so when he's looking for trouble, he's looking for the horse showing some sort of sign of anxiety, which may be a brace, it may be a sign of tension. So all of those sorts of things come under that word trouble. I hope that makes sense to you.
Just quickly on that, it's you look at their body, you look at their eyes, you listen for their breathing, you look at their facial expressions, and if you start to get a good feel of a horse, which everyone knows what a hard eye looks like, a soft eye, all those things, and they can see harder expressions in horses. If you see more stillness in the ears, things like that, where things stop sort of computing, then you can start to see there's a bit of trouble or anxiety in there that you got to maybe look at why is that happening.
Great. I really enjoyed listening to that answer. It was fascinating to hear, and I think a lot of information is going to be really helpful to many people. So thank you for answering it, Mark. We're going to leave it there for this week. So we will continue with some other questions shortly, and that'll be on the next week's podcast. So thank you very much for listening, everyone out there, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jenny.
You can learn more from Mark and his approach online through his online training videos. Just search Mark Langley Horsemanship. Join hundreds of others around the world making real progress, fixing problems and improving their relationship with their horses. There are now over 500 training videos. Make use of the 7-day free trial and take a look. Membership is just $15 a month, and you get to ask Mark a question.